Well, good day and welcome to your NEWSMAX Daily for Thursday, November 7th, 2024. The first of 4 Thursdays this month, with the fourth being Thanksgiving Day. That's 3 weeks from today. And so-called Black Friday sales are already happening all over the place, everywhere. I say so-called because sometimes, most of the time, they are really not that great of a deal ever since they've done away with, the real traditional Black Friday. All right, the post-election euphoria is continuing on Wall Street today. Markets opened at new record highs across the board after yesterday's surge, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average gaining 1,500 points. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies also had big post-election gains. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell's in the spotlight today. Jerome Powell, who President-elect Donald Trump has been critical of, is expected to announce another interest rate cut this afternoon. They're expecting 1/4 point versus the 1/2 point cut last time. And after this one, we may actually start to feel or see some of the effects, like on car loans, bank loans, credit cards. Trump has said in interviews over the past year that he would not reappoint Powell as chair of the Federal Reserve. So he'll likely be appointing a new Federal Reserve chair, and he will also be appointing a new attorney general. And how will that play into some of his pending legal issues? We'll go in depth on that with Judge Andrew Napolitano in a few minutes. I am also going to play, heads up, I'm going to play some of the vice president's concession speech because it's important. I'm going to give you the election reaction from a bunch of NEWSMAX hosts and guests. Honestly, it was tough trying to decide where to get started with this, but I am going to start with Rob Schmitt because he also spoke with Donald Trump Jr.
Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. I hope you stayed up late last night because we're never going to see anything like this again. An absolutely insane story of vindication. Donald Trump is an unstoppable force, and he's been given a very clear mandate by the American people. Stop the Democrat Party. Stop the lunacy that is destroying our country. For the past 4 years, all Biden and Kamala had to do was not be insane. The path to ending Trumpism and Trump's political career was not very complicated, but they simply couldn't resist. And 4 years of left-wing chaos gave Trump his foothold, and he took care of the rest. He is back tonight. He is stronger than he ever has been before, and his return to power signals the collapse of the establishment. The establishment government and the establishment media are now dead. For years, both colluded to destroy Trump's organic movement. Last night, Trump won the final battle. But today, there was no self-reflection to be found. Like a deranged vagrant screaming at pedestrians, these relics of yesterday just scream louder and louder to a largely tuned-out audience.
There were appeals to racism in this campaign, and there is racial bias in this country, and there is sexism in this country.
D.C. and Congress have not been able to do one thing in regard to the rogue corporations of social media.
Elon Musk, who owns Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it these days, X, who is a disinformation propagandist.
But it's not just misogyny from white men. Mm-hmm. It's misogyny from Hispanic men. Right. It's misogyny from black men. A lot of Hispanic voters have problems with black candidates.
Right.
A lot
and
of,
with other Hispanics. You've got some that don't like each other.
There are levels of sexism and racism that clearly a lot of people in this country are willing to tolerate.
It's amazing. It's amazing to watch. It will never end. The media institutions, though, that for decades controlled most of our minds, realized this morning that their power has ended. It is interesting to think about it, but Trump is to politics exactly what Elon Musk's X is to mainstream media. It is alternative. And for the past few years, alternative media and populist politics has replaced corrupted power and its propaganda machines. This is a bloodless American revolution. Americans were scolded, they were fear-mongered, they were shamed, and yet they still came out black, white, brown, male, female, and elected the most vilified politician in American history. That's what happened last night. It was amazing to watch. The elites in this country are in absolute shock by what happened.
That's Rob Schmitt, host of Rob Schmitt Tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern on Newsmax. You will hear more about those Latino comments in that clip from MSNBC in a moment with our Chris Salcedo. But as I mentioned, Rob spoke with Don Jr.
Donald Trump Jr. joins me tonight. And, sir, it's good to have you back on the show. Fighting a little cold here. It was up late last night, but, what a night it was, and what a party you guys had in West Palm Beach. Tell us, the first thing I wanted to ask you is, tell us how your father reacted as the returns came in and it looked clear.
Listen, it was great. Obviously, feels like an incredible vindication, Rob, for all of the nonsense they've put him through, our whole family through, really for the last 9 years. With the indictments and the impeachments and the congressional testimony and all of the stuff we've had to deal with. It was pretty incredible. He was very calm, very cool, very collected. The guy's a machine. We did 4 rallies, and his rallies, he goes for 90 minutes, 2 hours. He did 4 of those. We got home from Michigan at 6 o'clock in the morning. He was up the whole plane ride and basically went home to Mar-a-Lago, got on TV. I mean, the guy's 78. He pulled an all-nighter. I mean, that kind of energy you can't make up, and basically almost pulled an all-nighter the other, again. It was truly spectacular. Just something great to see. It just felt so good. And to have the House, to have the popular vote, to have the Senate, or at least what looks like the House, really amazing. You take the popular vote talking point off the table for the Democrats, and maybe they'll start focusing on real problems, not installing tampon dispensers in boys' bathrooms.
That's exactly right. I have a feeling that, there's been a lot of pain for the Republican Party as Trump has kind of taken it over and moved it towards populism, that there's been a lot of growing pains to that process. I feel like Democrats have done a good job of holding that off and staying establishment. They have their elites in charge. They don't want to change that. But I feel like this might be the moment when they're forced to, because when you have a humiliating loss like they had last night against, in their minds, your father is a very beatable candidate, right? Because they think he's just so awful. And right now, there's got to be a lot of soul searching in that party.
You would think so, but they haven't exactly been strong on these things. You could see the people in their own party revolting for the last few months. When I started talking about back in the late 20 teens, talking about men playing in women's sports. And, it was amazing to watch. Even like leftist Twitter at the time, right, would be like, oh, I hate you so much, Don, but you're right on this one. Or I can't believe I'm agreeing with Don Jr. on this. And yet the party went all in. So it's not even that they're just, held it off. They fully embraced some of this radicalism that is just so out of touch with so many regular people, and then failed across the board on all the things that actually matter, whether it's economics, whether it's war. I mean, they've really done an entire role reversal. They've become the party of war. They've become the party of censorship. They've become the party of the elite. The Democrats in America control over 70% of the wealth of the country. It's really a flip, and it's typical Democrat projection. They always accuse you of doing all of the things that they're actually doing, but to watch that in real time and to watch it play out, it's been amazing. I don't want to be vindictive. I want to do what's right for the country, but after what they've tried to put me through, what they've put my father through, what they put our whole family through, you saw the Tish James,
the
presser
worst.
Today.
Yeah.
She's saying, and we're going to stop him from being vindictive. I mean, you mean like what you're doing when you're getting called before the New York Supreme Court and being ridiculed for doing stuff that has literally never, ever been done before, testing all sorts of obscure theories of law to try to stop Trump because you campaigned on it and it's good for fundraising, but not for reality, and not when New York's crumbling and falling apart and crime's going through the roof. Don't focus on those problems. Focus on Trump.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and today, what we saw today from Tish James, that was just awful. I mean, I thought that the optics of that was terrible. She just looks like a little tyrant that just can't quite do what she wants, but she's working on it. I want to go back to the campaign that you guys had, and you had a really incredible vice president pick and that VP pick, and that was, I know you had a lot to do with that. You also had a lot of really incredible surrogates. I mean, to have Elon Musk, Tulsi, Vivek, Tucker, this incredible team behind him that I really think helped so much drawing out that younger vote, drawing out the young people that listen to this alternative media, that listen to Joe Rogan for information, read Twitter for information. You guys had all the right people to get that young vote out for Republicans, which is so hard to do.
100%. I mean, the other side likes to talk about, they're the unity party, but we've actually brought people from across the aisle. We've brought people from different walks of life, races, religions, everything in, and actually embraced them. If you look at Tulsi Gabbard, former Democrat, Elon Musk, former Democrat, but he's also a guy that's doing things that NASA has been trying to do for 75 years. And with a couple of years, in a couple of years, he's outperforming them.
Donald Trump Jr. on Rob Schmitt Tonight. If you live in Florida, and especially if you work in news, as I do, NASA and the space program, the Space Coast, SpaceX, it becomes a part of what you do. And just living on Florida's East Coast, as Don Jr. does, with as many people involved in the aerospace industry, the space industry, and all the rocket launches, it's really a part of life. He is not exaggerating either about Elon Musk and SpaceX doing more in a decade than NASA has done in multiple decades. Don't forget, there are currently 2 NASA astronauts stranded on the International Space Station right now because of the failures of the NASA Boeing Starliner, which took years and years to get off the ground. All right, anyway, moving on to a really fired up NewsMax host, Carl Higbie, on the election.
Survey says America has had enough of you-know-what. Enough of this government, big government, police state, tax and spend, foreign wars, censorship, drag queen story hours, and this woke crap. Donald Trump, with an electoral landslide and the popular vote, which I don't think a Republican has won in like 20 years. He looks poised to keep and even pick up seats in the House. Senate had 3 Republican flips to get the number to 52. Let's go.
We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy?
The next 12 years are going to be lit. Yes, I think J.D. Vance is going to walk away with 2 terms. He's like a near flawless candidate. But do not compromise, GOP, or come to the middle, because we don't have to. This resounding victory that the American people just served up is a mandate to do everything Trump said he was going to do. House, Senate, I'm looking at you guys. You guys better get those bills queued up and on his desk day one, unlike the last time. Massive tax cuts, massive budget cuts, fire people. Like 80% of that joint got to go in D.C. School choice, mass deportations, and do unto others as they have done unto you. You nervous libs, you should be. The mandate from the majority, and I emphasize the majority for the libs out there who was crying about the Electoral College, the majority of American people said, what you did to Trump was wrong. We want the actual criminals investigated. We want them thrown in jail like they did to the January 6ers. It's time to send a message that if you play stupid games, you will win stupid prizes, because that pendulum always swings, and it has swung way back last night. You go, Trump, you go after these people until that part of your ear grows back. Liz Cheney sees this writing on the wall. She's buying new pantsuits this morning. She tweeted out, our nation's democratic system functioned last night and we have a new president-elect. All Americans are bound, whether we like it or not, to accept the outcome and the results of this election, blah, 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 blah. Nice try. She is really worried about going to jail right now for deleting evidence, witness tampering, that sham January 6th committee, and she should be. Oh, Carl, let's not spike the football. Too late. Let's bring the country back together, blah, blah, blah. Look, we can do all that right after we right all the wrongs that they did to Trump and all of his supporters and everyone else. I take my karma piping hot with a side of liberal tears. I'm so here for this. In Deep State, I know they are flurrying right now to like put guardrails up or whatever they're going to try to do to limit the scorched earth that is coming on January 21st. Cry all you want. Anything you do, dare I say, will be unburdened by shortly, because all of your jobs are gone. You people suck. You're finished. Mike Johnson, do a CR to I think it's December 15th it expires. Shut it down. I don't really care what you do. Just don't do anything that will be effective past January 21st. Because when it's game time, it is pain time. Have that bill written and passed. That current slim margin better get in line now so it's ready to sign the day Trump takes his hand off that Bible. I'm going to eat popcorn while they slash this government back to what it was meant to be. I'm talking 1776 style. The reactions from the haters, though, have got to be the best. But the one that I absolutely loved was when they were trying to find some silver lining for Kamala Harris on CNN.
So you asked, are there any places that the vice president is overperforming Joe Biden in 2020? So we could show you that as well. We just bring that out here. Harris overperforming in 2020. Holy smokes. There you go. So let this go away and see if there's anything on the east side there.
Literally nothing?
Literally nothing.
Literally not one county?
Yes, Jake, nothing. But here's the epitome of like the epiphany of the century in real time.
But if Donald Trump is reelected, given the entire history that you outlined, Stephanie, that we've talked about a lot on this network, it suggests that MAGAism needs to be considered a real movement with potentially legs. J.D. Vance is 20 years old, not really, but he's young, you know. There is 40, yeah. There is a real question about the sort of tenets of MAGAism that exists beyond Donald Trump that I think people need to take seriously, both in terms of their threat and the weight that they pull on American democracy.
People are so bad at everything. Now you realize it? You missed the like 10, 20, 30, 100,000 person crowds like 800 times consecutively over the last 2 years? This is like, they are like standing in the middle of a highway right now, in the middle of the night, in black clothing, and getting hit by a car. Like, I can't believe I got hit by a car.
That is my man, Carl Higbie, host of Frontline, 5 o'clock Eastern on Newsmax. MAGism. That was someone on MSNBC who was really trying hard not to say MAGA, because if anything else, it would be MAGAism, right? MAGAism. She said multiple times MAGism. I said a few minutes ago that Chris Salcedo was going to have reaction to those Latino comments from some of the pundits on MSNBC and also the huge Latino turnout in the election. Here it is.
In the Latino community, there was a monumental shift away from Democrats, who many Hispanics had determined were poised to turn America into one of the third world left-wing hellholes that many of our ancestors fled.
Donald Trump is winning the Latino vote in Michigan with 60% of the vote. Harris, 35% of the vote. That's a 25% advantage for Trump among Latinos. That is a big change when Biden won Latinos in Michigan by 11 points 4 years ago. That's a 36-point swing in the margin.
But it wasn't just left-wingers at CNN who noticed the rise of the liberty-loving Latino. They noticed at MSNBS as well.
Donald Trump is on track to sweep the 7 battleground states. We still have 3 outstanding. We'll see how those go. But he did better almost everywhere. In every county where the hope from the Harris campaign was that she would make up ground on Joe Biden's suburbs, Donald Trump actually did better. We'll break down some of these numbers, but the gender gap was not nearly as wide as the Harris campaign needed to be. And Latino men came out in force for Donald Trump.
And because we Latinos loved our families, our communities, and country more than we loved giving power to corrupt, unworthy, and anti-American Democrats, the chief white guy at MSNBS, Morning Brzezinski, started calling us names.
Democrats need to be mature, and they need to be honest. And they need to say, yes, there's misogyny. But it's not just misogyny from white men. It's misogyny from Hispanic men.
Right.
It's misogyny from black men, things we've all been talking about, who do not want a woman leading them. Might be race issues with Hispanics.
First, do you notice how leftists always blame others for us rejecting them, not themselves? The folks at MSNBS can't conceive that the Democrats have gotten it very wrong. But don't you brown folks out there love it when white privileged leftists try to tell you why you voted against them? MSNBS and the NBC properties are perfectly comfortable claiming the only reason why Hispanics came out in support of America First and opposed one of the most unqualified empty suits in Democrat history was because her was a woman. Let me set the record straight. There are plenty of women who I, your liberty-loving Latino, would feel supremely confident in leading this country. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Congresswoman Beth Van Dyne, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, Congresswoman Luna, just to name a few. A candidate's gender has nothing to do with why they are elected or rejected. But Morning Brzezinski is trying to keep division alive in America. That's why he doesn't have to admit that liberty-loving Latinos didn't reject Kamala Harris because she was a woman. He knows we rejected her because she was an anti-American Marxist who supported criminals, illegal aliens, and foreign countries over the safety, security, prosperity of our own people. But MSNBS wasn't done. They had a message for you blacks, too, out there who walked off the leftist Democrat plantation.
I think that a lot of it was he was able to sell a lot of Hispanic voters that immigration was a threat to them, that some of the people coming across the border was a threat to them. I think that we've got to be honest, among Hispanic men and black men, there's a lot of misogyny.
Okay, first, the issue in this election wasn't immigration. It was illegal immigration, as Sharpton and MSNBS's party allowed millions of illegal aliens to stream into our country unvetted. And this may come as a shock to the clueless Sharpton there, but that lawless, anti-American Democrat policy had deadly consequences for our people. These are just a handful of the Americans killed by the Democrats' illegal immigration campaign. The good Reverend and MSNBS either don't know or don't care that these Americans died from a 100% preventable crime. And to all of you black folks out there who saw Kamala Harris dodging interviews, flip-flopping on the issues, giving no specifics in how she would help your family, after you folks in the black community saw Harris pledging that her gift to you was going to be the wanton slaughter of black babies in the womb, what do you think of Sharpton calling you misogynists for voting against the most unqualified Democrat to ever run for president, a person who was selected, not elected, to run for president? Isn't it possible that you folks in the black community voted your conscience and voted for what's best for your country? Well, not according to Sharpton and the leftist kooks at MSNBS.
Chris Salcedo is the host of the Chris Salcedo Show on Newsmax. And how about we hear from the huckster, Governor Mike Huckabee?
Governor, it's so great to see you. So we were watching it. Not only did he win the Electoral College, he has won the popular vote. Just tell us how you're feeling a few hours later and probably on very little sleep like us.
Very much little sleep, Bianca, but what a great night for America, not just for Donald Trump or his supporters, but for the future of our country, because it was a real pushback against the collaboration of the mainstream media that has lied to us, abused us, looked down their noses at us, and then the power elites. And there were Republicans as well as Democrats in that cabal. Let's be real clear. This isn't just a creation of the left. That was really what was destroying this country. But you have so many never-Trumper, old-time Republicans that needed to be shown the door because all they cared about was their globalist ideas, making sure they stayed in power and got rich off the government, and didn't care that a lot of hardworking Americans were losing their jobs, couldn't feed their families, couldn't go out to eat, couldn't send their kids to camp or college. This was a big night for the future of a country that includes everyone. And we saw it in the votes of blacks and Hispanics and men and people across the spectrum. It didn't matter what gender, what race. This was an American election, and thank God for it.
Thank God is right. I want to play a little bit from former Missouri Senator Claire McCaskill on Morning Joe, kind of acknowledging this really shift that we're seeing and what Donald Trump was able to do that Kamala Harris and the Democrats did not. Let's play this soundbite.
First, I think we have to acknowledge that Donald Trump knows our country better than we do. I think he figured out that anger and, frankly, fear were way more powerful than appealing to people's better angels. That anger and fear were going to work in this election, whether you're afraid of immigrants or afraid of people who are trans.
So she starts off positive, but then they go right back to it. And that's sort of where we're at. They want to kind of understand and acknowledge because they all didn't see it coming or refused to see it. And now we're here in this position. What do you make of her comments and how mainstream media moves forward, how Americans who did not support Donald Trump move forward? Because likely they will benefit from his policies, Governor.
Well, she was exactly in the right place, sitting around the table during Morning Joke, because that's what that has become. These people who sit and think that they know so much more about the world than any of us ever could possibly know. They're just better than us, and they honestly believe that. Here's the problem. It's not anger and fear that drove the American people. It's the fact that we don't want to have our hope, our inspiration, meritocracy, the sense of no matter where you start, you can go great places in this country. That was being systematically destroyed by people who ran this country, who decided that they were better than everyone else and they could make decisions that were good for them, but that would crush a working class family. So this wasn't about anger and fear. I think now there is more hope and optimism that we've seen in America in a long, long time.
Yes, and Kamala Harris, who has seemingly fallen up every position in her career and was able to do so really through, a state like California where it is, a one party and was able to ascend now. I don't know what her future holds. I know she says she's going to call Donald Trump and concede. We haven't seen her. She sent her campaign co-chair out to break the news last night. So not even facing the people. And then some were even criticizing her, saying a woman, I'm speaking, they send out a man. Hillary Clinton did the same thing.
Bianca De La Garza with Governor Mike Huckabee on Newsline. All right, later in the day, much later than the initial 1:30 announcement or the 1:30 plan, the vice president did deliver her concession speech to her supporters and to the nation. And I'll wrap it all up after that with Judge Napolitano on Trump's pending legal issues, and what's going to happen now and after he appoints a new attorney general. So don't go away. Hang on.
Good afternoon. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So let me say, and I love you back. And I love you back. So let me say, my heart is full today. My heart is full today, full of gratitude for the trust you have placed in me, full of love for our country, and full of resolve. The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for, but hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright. As long as we never give up and as long as we keep fighting. To my beloved Doug and our family, I love you so very much. To President Biden and Dr. Biden, thank you for your faith and support. To Governor Walz and the Walz family, I know your service to our nation will continue. And to my extraordinary team, to the volunteers who gave so much of themselves, to the poll workers and the local election officials, I thank you. I thank you all. Look, I am so proud of the race we ran and the way we ran it. And the way we ran it over the 107 days of this campaign, we have been intentional about building community and building coalitions. Bringing people together from every walk of life and background, united by love of country with enthusiasm and joy in our fight for America's future. And we did it with the knowledge that we all have so much more in common than what separates us. Now, I know folks are feeling and experiencing a range of emotions right now. I get it. But we must accept the results of this election. Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition, and that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power.
So there you go. Vice President Harris speaking outside on the campus of her alma mater, Howard University in Washington, D.C., saying all the right things, all the diplomatic things. She did go on to talk a lot about continuing the fight, continuing the mission, continuing her mission, whatever that mission is. Time will tell, I guess. In the meantime, she is the Vice President of the United States for the next couple of months. Rob Schmitt mentioned it with Don Jr. back at the beginning. You'll be hearing about New York Attorney General Letitia James today after she vowed to continue the fight as well, the fight against Donald Trump, in a nasty speech yesterday. As I mentioned, Trump will get to appoint a new Attorney General. What is it all going to mean for his pending legal issues? This is former New Jersey Superior Court Judge Andrew Napolitano on Newsmax.
You know, we were talking about this with Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones right before you came on from the great state of Georgia. And he talked about the case that Trump faces down in Georgia. But obviously, as you know, there's one with Jack Smith, special counsel in D.C. What does this all mean now moving forward?
We'll start with the Georgia one. And I heard your conversation. It was a great conversation that I think hit the nail on the head on so many different aspects. Donald Trump is one of 16 remaining. Lieutenant Governor Jones was a defendant. Pardon me. The court dismissed the case against him for lack of evidence. Donald Trump is one of 16 defendants remaining in that Georgia case. My guess is that D.A. Willis, especially in light of her substantial reelection yesterday, will move forward on the case against all of the defendants with the exception of the president. Now, there is no law specifically that says he cannot be tried in state court, but as a practical matter, they can't take him out of the White House and try him while he's the president. So as a practical matter, the case against him either is held in abeyance for 4 years, and the world may look very different in 4 years, or will go away and she'll proceed against the other remaining 15 defendants. The case in New York, he's scheduled to be sentenced 2 days before Thanksgiving. To me, it is inconceivable that that sentence would involve custody of any sort. I would imagine that either the sentencing will be adjourned for 4 years, or the sentencing will just be a simple fine, which he'll pay, wipe his hands of the case, and then it's over with. The two federal cases are very interesting from a jurisprudence point of view. He has said that he will fire Jack Smith within 2 seconds after he takes the oath of office on January 20th. Jack Smith may very well want to preempt that. Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, may want to preempt that by asking the court to dismiss them. I doubt that they will do that. I doubt that they would do that. Joe Biden might want to pardon Donald Trump so those cases go away. But if nobody does anything between now and January 20th, as soon as the new Attorney General is sworn in, whoever that is, that AG will ask the judge in Florida, Aileen Cannon, and the judge in D.C., Sonia Chutkin, to dismiss the two cases.
Wow. The delay plan that we had talked about so many times for Trump's legal team appears to have paid off since he has won the election here. Since you mentioned President Biden and the idea of pardoning here, you mentioned Trump, but we're also awaiting possible sentencing for Hunter Biden, his son. Do we see any action there, Judge?
I'm sure that Joe Biden will pardon Hunter. I mean, look at it from a human point of view. What father wouldn't pardon his own son, no matter how aberrant the son's behavior was? And Joe's political career is over. He really has nothing to do. He can actually go out in an aura of goodwill by pardoning even the people that he has condemned, like some of the January 6th people. But I don't know what his thinking is, but my guess is that he will pardon his son.
Newsmax senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano on National Report with Sean Kreisman and Emma Rechenberg. So the judge says President Biden will most likely pardon Hunter Biden. As he said, what parent is not going to pardon their child, especially since Joe's political career is over, if Joe knows it's over? And that would be something if Biden pardoned Trump, right? I mean, if Biden really wants to stick it to the Democrats, which some people think he does, that would be the way to do it. Pardon Trump on the way out the door as he ends his career. It would also be quite a gesture of bipartisanship, right? Sort of like when Donald Trump didn't lock up Hillary. There's also a lot of talk today about Donald Trump saying he would immediately end the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Trump spoke with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, and many other world leaders have already reached out to congratulate Trump on being reelected. But as of this morning, he has not heard from Russian President Putin. And by tonight, if not sooner, the war in Ukraine and Russia is going to be a big, big talking point. And if you haven't seen Jimmy Kimmel's Trump re-election meltdown, you must Google it. I'm not going to play it here. I'm not going to give him the credence, but you have to check it out. It'll make your day. And be sure to keep up with all of the news all day on NEWSMAX, NEWSMAX 2, and at NEWSMAX.com. Also, go to NewsMaxPlus.com. Make sure you're getting the complete lineup of NewsMax shows, hosts, and all of the great expert guests like Governor Mike Huckabee, like Judge Andrew Napolitano, CPAC Chairman Matt Schlapp, Senator Rick Santorum, and many others. I'm Tony Marino. Thank you, as always, for checking out the NEWSMAX Daily. Continue to share it with your friends and family. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, Friday Eve, right? And what a weekend it is going to be. In the meantime, keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the NEWSMAX app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
It's Jerry Callahan from The Callahan Show. You can listen to us every day. We react to the latest news, politics, sports, and all the madness in the world. I'll give you my opinion with a little edge, a little attitude. I'm an unapologetic right-winger, trapped behind enemy lines in deep blue Boston, so I'm used to taking on the mainstream media mob. You can hear us anywhere you get your podcast, or you can listen every day at newsmax.com/listen.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is NEWSMAX. It's real news for real people.